For spine-chilling true stories of sinister secrets, haunted lives, and terrifying revelations. If you think suburban life is all manicured lawns and BBQs, think again. In Maple Creek, Rebecca, a single mother, felt the chill of reality creeping in. It all started when the whispers began a soft, sinister rush through the halls of her two-story home, barely audible yet unmistakable. At first, it was a trick of the wind, or so she told herself. But as shadows crawled deeper into the corners of their home, panic coiled around her heart like a vice. "Mom, did you hear that?" Emily's hesitant voice broke through the darkness. Her teenage daughter's introversion had always made their relationship delicate, but now unearthed fears knotted them together tighter than ever. Days passed, and eerie occurrences accelerated. Items disappeared. Keys that vanished just as Rebecca reached for them. A hairbrush Emily swore she'd left on the bathroom sink. It was as if their belongings had slipped into another dimension. Each morning, they found cryptic messages on their porch. Words written in a frantic scrawl. "You're next." Desperation washed over Rebecca as her frantic calls to the police resulted in dismissive chuckles. "Just kids messing around, ma'am," they told her, as if a shadowy force whispering in her bedroom made her sound like a mad woman. Over tea one fateful evening, Rebecca's seemingly perfect neighbors, the Petersons, unwittingly set the stage for trouble. Claire Peterson's voice, syrupy sweet, recounted tales of Maple Creek's past, the unsolved disappearance of a girl, the darkness that lingered long after. "You can't escape the ghosts of this town," she smiled, but Rebecca felt a shiver crawl down her spine. It was a warning masked as nostalgia. What secrets lay hidden behind those perfectly trimmed hedges? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they dug deeper into the golden facade of Maple Creek, the whispers grew louder, more chaotic. Emily's phone buzzed late one night, their hearts racing as they read the haunting message. "I see you." Rebecca's breath hitched, a cold sweat slicking her palms. Who was watching them? The cozy suburban life they once cherished turned into a suffocating prison of fear. Friends began to back away, dismissing their worries as paranoia. Standing in their yard under the pale glow of streetlights, the Petersons loomed like dark sentinels. Rebecca's mind spun with what could transpire in a place meant for family barbecues and block parties. The realization struck. They were ensnared in a web woven from the town's buried past, a tapestry of betrayal tied to those who once lived in their house. With every secret they unearthed, the stakes intensified, nearly choking the oxygen from her lungs. Silence seeped in, heavy and unnatural, as she shared a glance with Emily, both of them tightly wound and unsteady. What other truths lay beneath their perfect suburban facade? The deeper they delved, the tighter the grip of terror became. Fear clenched at their throats as they turned towards the house, the darkness swallowing them whole. Would they ever escape the sinister hands of Maple Creek? Or were they already trapped within its haunting grasp? The night air thickened, every rustle sounding like nails scraping against wood. As Rebecca and Emily stepped inside, the familiar creaks of their home morphed into ominous groans, echoing their fear. The heartbeat of the house grew louder, each thump a reminder of their escalating dread. "Mom, let us just sleep with the lights on," Emily suggested, her voice trembling. But Rebecca shook her head. Felt wrong, like inviting darkness into their sanctuary. "We need to confront this." Reluctantly, they gathered what little courage they had left and navigated the dimly lit living room. Shadows danced along the walls, twisted and elongated, playing tricks on their anxious minds. The phrases scribbled on their porch invaded Rebecca's thoughts. Who was responsible? What did "you're next" even mean? Before she could sink deeper into despair, a clatter came from the kitchen. Heart racing, Rebecca turned to Emily, wide-eyed. "Did you hear that?" But Emily had already quieted, her brow furrowing in concentration. They tiptoed towards the sound, dread-laden with the smells of stale coffee and something metallic. As they approached, the kitchen door swung open with an eerie creak. Emily recoiled, clutching Rebecca's arm. They peered inside, but the fluorescent light flickered uncertainly above them. It was empty. Then, something in the corner caught Rebecca's eye. A small notebook lay discarded on the floor, pages fluttering as if inviting them closer. "It wasn't here before," Emily whispered, stepping forward. Rebecca felt a sense of foreboding wash over her. She knelt to pick it up, and the moment her fingers grazed the cover, a cold gust swirled through the room, snuffing out the light. "Mom!" Emily screamed. The air grew damp, heavy with an energy that pressed against their chests. As the darkness wrapped around them, Rebecca's heart pounded like a war drum. "Open it," Emily urged, voice shaking. With trembling hands, Rebecca flipped open the notebook. The hasty scrawls of previous owners began to blur into one another. It was a diary. Fragmented entries revealed a creeping paranoia, each line dripping with dread. "The whispers are growing. They're getting closer." Suddenly, a horrific image caught her eye. The last page depicted a crude drawing of their home, surrounded by ominous figures, blackened and distorted. And just above it, a phrase stopped Rebecca's breath. "Don't let them in." An icy laugh echoed in the shadows, chilling them to the bone. Thrumming undercurrent of terror tightened its grip, merging with the very fabric of their home. Rebecca stood frozen, the notebook trembling in her grasp. "We need to leave," she whispered, but was too late. The lights flickered back on, revealing the kitchen was now filled with dark figures, shadowy silhouettes twisted into grotesque forms, the air punctured by their raspy whispers. "You're part of us now," they taunted, their faces obscured but their eyes glinting with hunger. Panic surged. Rebecca grabbed Emily's hand, but the shadows lunged, encasing them in a swirling mass of darkness. Their cries were swallowed whole, the walls of the kitchen pulsating with an evil heartbeat. The ground beneath them quaked. The walls seemed to breathe as shudders racked the house. The whispers grew louder, coming from every corner, drowning out their screams. Was it all too late? Had they awakened something far more sinister than they could ever understand? As they felt themselves slipping into the void, a chilling thought flashed through Rebecca's mind. Why them? What secrets held Maple Creek that made them targets? The questions swam dangerously close, and dread wrapped around them like a noose. Time was running out. Would they break free or fall into the town's abyss? Eternally lost? The darkness tightened around Rebecca and Emily like a choking vine. They screamed, but their voices were snatched away. The shadows seemed to breathe, a malevolent force keen on dragging them into the depths of a nightmare. In a split second, the figures surged forward, their grotesque forms shifting and writhing. Time felt suspended as tendrils of darkness reached out, brushing against Rebecca's skin, sending icy chills coursing through her veins. She fought against them, but the air became thick, her limbs felt heavy, and terror clawed at her throat. "Mom, we have to go," Emily cried, her voice barely a whisper in the tumultuous storm surrounding them. But their world tore apart with the force of a vortex, pulling them deeper into the shadows. It felt like falling into an endless well, the coldness wrapping around them like a blanket of dread. And just as suddenly, they landed hard on the kitchen floor, the air slamming back into their lungs as the figures vanished. Rebecca blinked against the dim light that now flickered uncertainly overhead. They scrambled to their feet, hearts racing, seeking an escape. Desperation was palpable, clawing at the edges of their sanity. "Emily, we have to get to the front door," Rebecca shouted, her voice raw with urgency. They rushed toward the kitchen exit, but the door slammed shut before they could reach it, the resounding thud echoing ominously through the room. "Why won't it open?" Emily said, her breath coming in quick gasps. Rebecca's mind raced. The diary warned them. "We have to find a way to make them leave. We can't become part of whatever that was." She glanced back at the eerie kitchen, where shadows twisted and curled like smoke. The air still crackled with lingering menace. Her eyes lingered on the diary lying on the floor where she had dropped it. What if there's something in there? Something that can help? I don't want to go back, Emily protested, but terror fueled Rebecca's resolve. She rushed back and picked up the notebook, leafing through its pages with trembling hands, scanning the frantic notes scribbled in the margins. There had to be something. Then a line caught her eye, one that had slipped her attention before. To banish the darkness, face your fear. Face your fear? Rebecca echoed, her pulse racing. But what did it mean? She scanned the pages again, desperate for clarity. Mom, I don't understand, Emily cried, fear etching deeper lines into her brow. Neither do I, but we have to try. Try what? Emily's eyes widened, despair clenching her heart. A cold, sharp gust blew through the kitchen, and a tormented whisper filled the air. Just give in. The figures melted in and out of the corners of her vision, churning her stomach. Suddenly, a memory nagged at Rebecca, an argument she'd had with Emily over something trivial, a fight that felt so insignificant now. Their love had been overshadowed by fear. A swell of guilt washed over her. Emily, remember that night, when we were scared of the dark and all I did was yell? I shouldn't have let fear win. Emily's eyes glimmered with confusion but also a hint of recognition. You mean yes, we need to confront them. Together. With newfound resolve, they turned to the empty space, the kitchen murky with darkness. You may try to scare us, but we are not afraid, Rebecca shouted, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. We know who we are. We won't let you control us. The darkness recoiled, the air thickening with a frustrated hiss. Shadows surged back, malevolent and hungry, but Rebecca stood firm, clutching the notebook tightly. In that moment, something shifted. A bright light erupted from the diary, pouring out like liquid fire, illuminating the kitchen. The figures writhed, screeching in protest, but the light cut through them like a blade, their forms disintegrating before her eyes. Yes, keep pushing, Emily exclaimed, her bravery rekindled by her mother's resolve. But as the last figure vanished, a deeper laugh echoed through the walls, chilling them to their very bones. You think you can banish us just like that? You don't know who you're dealing with. Panic rose once more as the walls shimmered with dark energy, pulsating with an ominous reminder. They had merely scratched the surface of an ancient terror. What does it mean? Emily stammered, confusion again flooding her eyes. Rebecca breathed heavily, feeling the weight of their ordeal crashing over her once more. I think this is just the beginning. And as the house around them felt like it was waking up, Rebecca couldn't help but wonder. Had they just awakened something else, something worse? The light from the diary flickered, struggling to hold back the shadows that seemed to pulse with sinister anticipation. Rebecca and Emily huddled together, hearts thundering like drums in their chests, every instinct screaming for them to run, but their feet were glued to the spot. What do we do now? Emily whispered, her voice trembling, eyes wide with terror. The laughter echoed again, a deep, gravelly sound that seemed to seep through the very walls of the house. It wrapped around them like a suffocating shroud. You think you can face us? Little girls lost in the dark. The voice was a taunt, oozing malice. Rebecca gripped Emily's hand tighter, her mind racing. They had pushed the figures back, but something worse was still lurking in the depths. We can't let fear in again. Remember what the diary said. Her words felt like a flimsy barrier against the overwhelming dread. I can't, Emily cried, her eyes darting around, searching for anything familiar in the darkness now creeping back. I don't want to be here. The shadows hissed, curling and recoiling like snakes, their movements sinuous and unpredictable. Embrace the fear, little girl. It's yours, the voice taunted, almost playful, and Rebecca felt her resolve waver. Stay with me, she urged, pushing the doubt away. We need to remember what we stand for. We are stronger than this. As if reacting to their determination, a gust of cold air swept through the kitchen, clattering pans and sending the light flickering wildly. For a moment, light and darkness fought for the space between them. Suddenly, images began to form in the shadows. Faces emerged, half-formed but twisted with anguish. These were not just figments. Rebecca recognized them, lost souls caught in the same nightmare they were now facing. No, she gasped, backing away. These people, they were trapped. Mom! Emily cried, horror gripping her as she realized the depth of their plight. We can't end up like them. Desperately, Rebecca glanced at the diary, flipping its pages faster. Ink bled through the paper as if infused with life, forming words she felt were meant just for them. There's a clue here. I know it. Little girls who fear the dark should remember to shine a light. Emily echoed, her mind racing. What if we use the light from the diary and focus it? Can we save them? Rebecca's breath quickened, realization clawing at her heart. Yes, that has to be it. But the shadows were relentless, swirling in a frenzy, angry at their confrontation. The figures morphed into shapes more menacing, advancing toward them with intent. Heartbeats quickened, terror surged. They could feel the weight of the darkness leaning in. Your light will not survive this night. The voice roared, shaking every floorboard and rattling the walls. Together, we can do this, Rebecca shouted, pulling Emily closer. They pressed the diary to their chests, eyes closed for a moment, channeling every ounce of their love and hope into the pages. We're stronger. We won't be afraid. As they opened their eyes, a radiant beam erupted from the diary, piercing the darkness. A blinding light that cut through the shadows and illuminated the tortured souls yearning for freedom. The room transformed into a battlefield, light and dark clashing violently. But something shifted again. The shadows began to fray, revealing a path unraveling at their feet, leading deeper into the darkness. Panic surged anew. Mom, what is happening? Emily shrieked. Rebecca's heart raced. I think we have to go that way. It's the only chance to truly confront this. Are you crazy? We can't. But as the presence of dread clawed at them, she felt that tugging need to find the source, to stop this once and for all. They had come so far. Emily, she breathed, her voice steadier than she felt. I think we have to face it. And as they stepped into the thickening shadows, a whisper curled around them, sending ice through their spines. Welcome home. The sensation of an unseen force pulled them down. And as the door slammed shut behind them, Rebecca realized they had entered a semblance of a nightmare. One step closer to the truth and perhaps the end of everything they knew. What awaited them in this abyss? Would they find salvation or be consumed by the terror that lay in wait? The darkness swallowed them whole, and the only sound was their racing hearts. Rebecca reached out, fingers brushing against the moist walls, feeling the dampness seeping through her skin like a warning. Emily, she breathed, but her voice was swallowed by the oppressive silence. They're watching us, Emily whispered, her breath jagged. Each word released a cloud of fear into the air. Rebecca could feel Emily's hand tremble in hers, a fragile tether in the suffocating gloom. Let us keep moving, Rebecca urged, squeezing her daughter's hand. She couldn't let the fear take over. They had to press on. A flickering light from the diary cast an eerie glow ahead, illuminating the path in a small radius. But outside that, the shadows seemed alive, writhing and shifting, a living nightmare as they ventured deeper. The air thickened with a metallic scent. It clung to their throats and lungs. Something terrible lurked just beyond the light. Rebecca's mind raced, piecing memories together from the diary. We need to remember what we learned, like how to be brave. Emily replied weakly. Yes, Rebecca said, forcing resolve into her voice. Bravery comes from knowing the truth about fear. She stopped as they entered a wider space, the glow from the diary revealing the remnants of what seemed to be a long-forgotten cellar. Shadows cast strange shapes that twisted and turned. Suddenly, a figure loomed in the periphery, half-formed, with eyes wide and desperate. Help, it breathed. The voice was a soft whimper muffled by the pressure of the darkness. Is that? Emily gasped, her eyes filling with tears. It looks like someone's in pain. No, don't look. Rebecca pulled Emily back, her heart hammering in her chest. It's trying to lure us. But the figure stepped closer, emerging from the shadows, revealing a face twisted with grief. You can make it stop. Set me free. Panic surged through Rebecca. These were not the souls they had seen before. They were living echoes, trapped in limbo, their cries soaking into the very air. It was a trap, a mirage designed to ensnare them in sorrow. Don't listen, Rebecca shouted, focusing on the diary, hoping its light would repel the entity. But the figure lunged forward, arms outstretched, and the darkness thickened around them, choking off light. You're trapped like me. There's no escape. Emily screamed, clutching onto Rebecca, panic blossoming in the pit of her stomach. Every instinct screamed for them to run, but the shadows slithered at their feet, holding them in place. Look deeper, Rebecca cried, adrenaline coursing through her. Remember what the diary told us. As if in response, the diary's light flickered, revealing new words dancing across its pages. A shared fear can break chains. Hold fast, sisters in the shadows. Together, Emily shouted, her voice cutting through the fear. Somehow they had to harness the light between them to confront the darkness surrounding them. Rebecca drew a deep breath, gathering her courage. Emily, on 3, we shine our light. 1, 2, what if it doesn't work? Mom? Emily's voice quivered. 3. They slammed the diary open together, channeling everything. Their love, the hope they had left, the echoes of courage. A stunning beam erupted from the pages, expanding outward like a shockwave, illuminating the darkness in a radiant swell. The shadowy figure howled, contorting into black mist, shrieking in rage as the light enveloped it. It clawed at the air, desperately trying to escape the searing glow, but it was too late. The shadows retreated, howling as they were pushed back into the depths, revealing further twisting pathways. But as the light surged, new whispers began to fill the space. You cannot save them. They will always be here. Rebecca's heart sank. The realities they believed they could change were whispering truths she wasn't prepared for. What did they still need to confront? They stood at a fork in the path, lights dimming, uncertainty wrapping around them like a shroud. Would they continue into the unknown, or turn back and abandon the trapped souls? Mom, Emily said, her voice quaking, what do we do next? Rebecca felt the shadows creeping back, pressing against her resolve. She could hear the faint sounds of cries mingling with the whispers, tugging at her heart. Time was running out. Emily, we have to choose now. But how do you choose between facing the darkness or saving the light? And what if both choices led them into something worse? They took a step toward the fork lights, breaths quickened. The weight of each choice heavy upon them, and somewhere, in the dark bows of the labyrinth, the shadows were waiting. What terrible truths lay behind that vacant end? Would their fears consume them, or could they find the strength to guide them home? The moment hung like a thick fog, clinging to them as they stood at the split in the path. Shadows twisted around their feet, whispering, beckoning. Rebecca's mind buzzed with the urgency to act. We can't stand here, Emily, she whispered, desperately searching for her daughter's gaze. Emily's eyes were wide and glistening, reflecting fear and uncertainty. What if we pick the wrong way? What if we do nothing? We can't let it end here, Rebecca said, her voice fierce, against the cold grip of their surroundings. She took a step forward into the flickering light that shone faintly on their left. We move, but a deep chill, more suffocating than the damp, wrapped around them, and the shadows shifted, whispering dark promises. Stay with us. A voice sang from the depths, seductive and grinding against her resolve. It felt enticing, almost soothing, offering an escape from their reality. Emily tensed, gripping her mother's hand tighter. Mom? Strong, guiding hands reached for them from the darkness, fingers curling, hungry for warmth. We can help, you can join us. No, Rebecca barked, her heart racing. We're not going with you. She pushed through the temptation, leading Emily forward. Trust me. They hurried into the light, every step a battle against the pull of despair whispering through the air. The corridor expanded into a vast chamber, the shadows morphing into grotesque figures, their mouths twisted in silent screams. The floor trembled beneath them, a heartbeat of its own, the heartbeat of the darkness. Emily's breath came in short gasps now, and Rebecca felt the panic surge in her chest. "Stay close," she commanded, reaching for the diary. "We need its strength." The whispers clung to them like smoke, thickening the air. "You can't escape," they chanted, their voices blending into a haunting melody. "You belong here." Rebecca cast a frantic glance around the edges of the chamber, and her eyes fell on something glinting in the shadows, a mirror framed in iron, covered in cobwebs. "Could show us the truth," she thought, the pulse of hope cutting through despair. "Should we look in it?" Emily's voice trembled, tinged with dread. "We must," Rebecca urged, her fingers trembling as she brushed the cobwebs aside. "It might show us what we need to confront." As the surface of the mirror smoothed under her touch, shadows writhed and swirled. Images began to emerge, twisted, nightmarish versions of themselves, engulfed in grief, fear, and fury. It showed not just what they faced physically but revealed deep fears, regrets, and the inner demons they grappled with daily. Rebecca's breath hitched. "Is showing us all of it." Emily recoiled, her small hands trembling. "I don't want to see." But it was too late. They were both ensnared by the reflection. The figures before them chanted their darkest secrets, echoing back their worries. "You fail. You'll never escape." "No," Rebecca screamed, instinctively pulling Emily back. But a shadow lunged from the mirror, snapping at their ankles. The glass rippled like water, and something dark and heavy surged forward, pushing against the edges of their minds. Just then, the diary flared to life, illuminating the chamber with a brilliant white light. "Remember," it cried, every word echoing with urgency. "Strength arises from facing what you fear most." "Mom," Emily pleaded, her face pale, pain flickering in her eyes. Rebecca's heart shattered at the sight of her daughter's fear. "Look beyond them, Em. They're not real." As the darkness lunged again, Rebecca locked eyes with Emily. "We fight together. Shine our light." Their hearts synchronized, the air electrifying with their collective warmth. They opened the diary, unleashing a wave of light that washed over everything. But the darkness snarled back, transforming into a thundering storm around them. "Are you ready to face your own demons?" A voice whispered ominously from the depths, chilling Rebecca to her bones. The swirling shadows had taken on shapes she recognized, faces she had tried to suppress. "What's happening?" Emily screamed. The violence around them intensified and, with frantic urgency, Rebecca understood the terrible choice ahead. Would confronting their fears empower them or lead them to ruin? As the shadows gathered menacingly, Rebecca hesitated, trying to gather strength. Would they rise to embrace the light or fall prey to the engulfing darkness? They braced for impact, knowing the next moment could change everything forever. The truth loomed above them, dark and seductive, waiting, watching. What if they were not the hunters, but the hunted? The darkness surged, a living beast swirling around them. Shadows twisted into nightmarish figures, each face an echo of their deepest fears. The room pulsed with unresolved emotions, pulling at Rebecca and Emily like tidal waves. Rebecca knew they stood at the edge of a chasm, where one misstep could plunge them into oblivion. "Hold my hand tight, Em," she shouted over the cacophony of whispers. But as her daughter's fingers intertwined with hers, the chill seemed to deepen, as if the air itself was trying to tear them apart. From the corner of her eye, Rebecca saw movement. A shadow wriggled free from the mass, forming a creature with familiar features, her own face leering back at her, twisted in agony. "You can't fight me," she shrieked, voice grating like nails on metal. "I am you." Sudden recognition jolted through Rebecca. This wasn't just a reflection. It was a manifestation of her guilt, her regrets, all the times she had faltered and let Emily down. "No, you're not me," she cried out, shaking her head violently. "You don't own me. The darkness sees you," it hissed, its voice dripping with malice. "It sees your failure. It knows deep down you're afraid." Emily began to tremble, pulling at Rebecca's hand. "Mom, please, I don't want to see this." "Fight it, Emily," Rebecca urged, squeezing her daughter's hand tighter. Focus on the light. She willed the diary's glow to envelop them, pushing against the suffocating darkness. But with every pulse of the light, the shadows retaliated, howling in fury. Why try? You're trapped. Another voice chimed in, this one a murmur that scraped over her skin. You'll never escape your own life. Rebecca felt the panic clawing at her throat. Listen, don't listen to them. We'll break free. But uncertainty slithered through the edges of her thoughts. What if they were right? The last few years had been a perilous journey, filled with loss and regret. Could she even save herself? The mirror continued to ripple, revealing haunting scenes of their past moments when she lost her temper or when Emily cried alone in the dark. Each memory felt like a dagger twisting in her heart. I'm sorry, she screamed at the shadows, desperate for forgiveness from her echo. I'm trying. Suddenly, a flash of anger shot through Emily. Her face hardened with resolve. Mom, look! She gestured wildly at the mirror, where their reflections began to morph. They were no longer faceless phantoms. Instead, brave versions of themselves emerged, standing tall, glowing with a fierce light that pushed back the darkness. They're inside us, Emily shouted, her voice steady now. They're part of who we are. Rebecca felt a glimmer of hope igniting in her chest. Yes, we've come this far together. We won't let fear rule us. With a newfound intensity, they held the diary high, channeling every ounce of their light into it. The air crackled as beams of brightness burst forth like fireworks, scattering the shadows and illuminating the chamber. But the darkness shrieked in fury, launching towards them in ravenous waves. You'll regret this, it howled, coiling around their ankles, weighing them down. Each tendril carried shadows of doubt, exploring cracks in their defenses. Push it away. We belong to the light, Rebecca shouted, heart racing, as she felt the pulse of hope beckoning. They leaned into each other, every fiber of their beings ignited in unity. As their light expanded, the figure of her darker self screamed, dissolving into smoke before she could recognize herself fully. The echoes of past failures faded, replaced with joyous laughter echoes of what they could become. But just as they thought they could overcome, the floor shook violently, cracking down the middle. No! Rebecca cried out, watching in horror as a deep fissure opened beneath her feet. Emily slipped closer to the edge, eyes wide with fear. Mom! What's happening? With each passing second, the shadows returned to gather beneath them, eerie whispers rising anew. You cannot escape your past, they sang, hypnotic and chilling, as if promising an eternal dance with darkness. Rebecca grabbed Emily, pulling her back with all her strength. Hold on to me. We must trust in each other. But would that be enough? As the shadows writhed and beckoned, every heartbeat painted their race against time. The fissure widened, and thick, curling tendrils of darkness began to drag them down into the abyss. Mom, what do we do? Emily cried, the bottomless void yawning hungrily below. In this moment of dread, Rebecca's resolve hardened. We choose our fate, together. But as they prepared to leap into the unknown, shadows coiled around them, chanting their darkest fears once more. In the end, who will you choose to be? And with that, they leapt into the uncertainty. What awaited them beyond the brink? As they fell into the unknown, the sensation of weightlessness enveloped them. Time unraveled and space distorted. Rebecca's stomach lurched violently, and she felt Emily's grip slip slightly. Panic surged through her. Hold on, don't let go. A piercing scream pierced the darkness around them, echoing endlessly as they hurtled downward. The shadows swirled, thick and suffocating, ready to snatch them away. They landed hard on a cold, damp floor that felt alive beneath them, like it was breathing. You okay? Rebecca gasped, raking her eyes over Emily's face to find it paler than ever. I think so, Emily mumbled, still clutching the diary to her chest, the faint glow pulsing like a heartbeat. But the light was dimming, struggling against the darkness that closed in around them. Stay close, Rebecca whispered, scanning the grim cavern they now found themselves in. It felt ancient, as if they had crossed into a realm that had long been forgotten. The walls were slick with moisture and covered in creeping roots that twisted like serpents threatening to ensnare them. The whispers returned tendrils of sound winding into her ears, recounting her failures, her fears. "You can run, but not hide," they hissed, each word a sharp stab to her heart. "You'll never escape the truth of who you are." "Don't listen," Rebecca urged, shaking off the dread that threatened to consume her. "We've faced them before. They're lies. Focus on the light." Emily nodded, eyes brightening with determination. "What do we do now?" The dim glow of the diary flickered, seeming to respond to their mounting fear. "We have to find a way out," Rebecca said. "There has to be something here." Just then, a ghostly figure emerged from the shadows, flickering like a candle in the wind. It was a woman, her face a haunting mix of beauty and sorrow. She looked familiar, but Rebecca couldn't place her. "You shouldn't have come," the woman warned, her voice barely a breath. "This place feeds on grief. It knows your pain." "Who are you?" Rebecca demanded, trying to project strength that was wavering within. "I am a reflection of every decision you made that steered you here. I am the remnants of loss you've buried. And I am not alone." As she spoke, more silhouettes began to materialize, shadows of people long lost to Rebecca's memory. Friends, family, and moments, each fragment echoing tales of despair and regret. Stay behind me," Rebecca shouted, placing herself protectively in front of her daughter. But Emily, trembling but unyielding, stepped forward. "Mom, they're not here to hurt us," she cried out, voice resolute. One shadow glided closer, sorrowful eyes locking onto Emily's. "You can break the cycle, child. Will you let fear control your path like she did?" Rebecca's breath caught in her throat as she regarded the figures. Each one was an unbearable part of her past. Each one illuminated her failures. "Do not listen to them, They only want to drag you down." The shadows circled them, a swirling current of despair threatening to drown them in its depths. "You must choose. Not just for yourself, but for her," the ghostly woman pointed at Rebecca. "Face your truth or retreat into infinity." Rebecca felt the ground beneath them tremble as the shadows tightened their grip, pulling at the edges of reality. She glanced back at Emily, her heart pounding in her chest. What if facing it means losing each other? Emily squared her shoulders, determination blazing in her eyes. "Then we'll face it together. I believe in us." At that moment, the diary flared brightly, illuminating the shadows for a brief moment. Memories flickered like photographs in a restless breeze. Past joys fought against the agony of present fears. "Let us do this," Emily shouted, raising the diary high. Together, as they stood side by side, the revelations of their past began to spin around them like flames against the night's chill. "A leap isn't just about falling," the spectral woman warned. "It's about the rise." And then suddenly, the cavern shook, a rippling shockwave that forced them to brace themselves. "Now!" Rebecca shouted. They both leaped forward into the blinding light of the diary, prepared to confront the truth of who they might become or risk being swallowed whole by despair. But as the light surged towards infinity, a dark shadow lunged, screaming, "You cannot escape your fate." In that moment, Rebecca realized they had not yet faced the ultimate challenge. The question reverberated in her mind like a war drum. What if the true horror lay not in the choices they had made, but in the ones that lay ahead? Light engulfed them, swirling in shades of white and blue. But before it could consume them, a cold grip yanked at Rebecca's ankle, pulling her back into the shadowy void. She gasped as the brilliance began to fade behind her, the darkness reasserting its chilling grasp. She could feel Emily's fingers slipping away, and panic surged through her. "Emily!" she cried out, her voice a harsh plea in the oppressive silence. Suddenly, the warmth of the diary dimmed, the pulsating glow turning into a flickering echo of its former self. "No!" Rebecca shouted, scrambling to reach for her daughter. But the darkness twisted and curled around her, coiling like a snake. Desperation clawed at her throat. The cavern transformed. The shadows morphed into something more vivid, a nightmare painted in anguish. Faces twisted in agony stared back at them. Lost souls trapped within the cavernous embrace. Each wail punctured the air, a chorus of suffering blending into one horrible symphony. "Mom, I'm here." Emily's small voice broke through the chaos, but it was muffled, distant. Rebecca strained against the darkness, dragging herself toward her daughter, her heart pounding relentlessly. "Hold on to the light," Emily urged, clutching the now-fading diary like a lifeline. Rebecca's focus narrowed, the shadows writhing and tugging at her. The spectral woman was back, her eyes glimmering with a mix of pity and understanding. "You cannot fight what lives within you," she whispered, her voice a haunting lull. "Every choice has led you here. Confront it before it consumes you both." The shadow around them stirred with newfound fury, the whispers coiling tighter around Rebecca, filling her mind with guilt and dread. "You're a failure. You'll lose her," it echoed, the scoff like nails on a chalkboard. "Shut up," Rebecca screamed, rage igniting within her. The darkness flinched at her defiance, momentarily receding. "Emily will face this together," she shouted, desperate to keep her daughter's gaze. "We're stronger than our fears." With a fresh surge of adrenaline, Rebecca gripped the diary and staggered forward, her heart racing in sync with the flickering light. "I won't let you drown in this," she shouted, reaching for Emily, their fingers brushing against each other's. "Mom, we can't let it win," Emily cried, determination resonating with her voice. Together, they tugged the diary higher, its fading energy sparking with a fierce intensity. The cavern trembled, the walls vibrating as the very fabric of reality threatened to unravel. The shadows shrieked in protest, swirling frenetically, desperate to maintain their hold. "What do we do?" Emily shouted over the rising panic. Rebecca felt her resolve solidify. "We summon our courage. We reject the chains of our past." The diary flared once more, illuminating the chamber with a blinding glow as they channeled their fears into it. The penetrating brightness pushed against the encroaching darkness, momentarily halting the impending tide of despair. But from the darkness came a terrifying laugh, rich and taunting, echoing like thunder in the cave. "You think you can escape?" In that moment, the woman's face shifted, revealing a scornful sneer that sent chills down Rebecca's spine. "You are bound to these memories. They are your legacy. You cannot run from who you truly are." The shadows lunged, angry waves crashing against the light. Rebecca stumbled, catching herself barely as the darkness pulsed, trying to swallow the light whole. "We have to fight," she urged, grabbing Emily's arm tightly. Together, they shouted as they pressed the diary between them, the light blinding in its brilliance. The shadows writhed, screeching in fury as their hold weakened. But Rebecca sensed it wasn't enough. "Stay strong," she barked, gathering every ounce of strength to surge forward, connecting with every memory that haunted her. Each failure became fuel, each loss turned into strength crashing against the darkness. But even as they pushed forward, Rebecca sensed it wasn't merely memories holding them back. Something deeper lurked beneath, something entwined with their very existence. As the last echoes of laughter faded, a chilling thought struck her. What if defeating the shadows required more than just bravery? What if the true price for liberation was buried within those very memories, one they were not ready to confront? And as the surge of light grew, she felt another presence lurking, waiting to strike back. "Emily!" she yelled as a whisper echoed through the cavern, dark and cold. "Are you ready to face your true self?" Rebecca froze, the realization coursing through her veins. This fight was far from over. The shimmering light from the diary flickered, threatening to snuff out as Rebecca and Emily braced themselves against the cold, ever-looming darkness. The figures surrounding them writhed with an intensity tied to their own fears, echoing their insecurities, their pain. But this time something felt different. A calm resilience sparked in Rebecca's heart, allowing her clarity amidst chaos. "Mom, what do we do?" Emily's voice trembled, yet a hint of bravery cracked through her fear. She gripped the diary tightly as if it were the lifeline they needed, and Rebecca saw the flicker of determination in her daughter's eyes. Rebecca took a deep breath, her pulse steadying. We face our truth, together. She glanced around, voices swirling around them like a storm whispers accusing them of their failures, guilt strangling the air thick. But she refused to let them overwhelm her. She raised the diary, its magic flickering in response. These shadows don't define us. We can't let them keep us prisoner. In that moment, she felt the power of all their shared memories, the laughter, struggles, and moments that were both joyful and painful binding together in an unbreakable bond. Show us, Emily shouted, her fear pushing her to the brink of panic. Show us who we really are. Rebecca nodded firmly, urging Emily closer as they focused on the diary. The room pulsed with their intentions, the light gathering around them like a protective shield. Together, they opened the pages wide and summoned every fragment of light they could muster. Their fear flowed into the words, swirling, intertwining with hope as radiant beams shot forth. The shadows shrieked in protest, thrashing wildly against the encroaching glow of their unity. You think this could save you? Came the voice from darkness, raspy and mocking. You are nothing but reflections of despair. The shadows morphed into vile images, flickering memories of loss, regret, pain, everything they had feared to confront. But Rebecca felt a surge of warmth spread through her chest as she remembered the strength she and Emily had shown throughout their journey. No, you're wrong. Our light is stronger than our shadows. She tightened her grip on the diary, feeding its glow with every ounce of love she held for Emily, as if in response to their courage. The diary pulsed with a swirling cascade of light, illuminating every corner of the cavern, casting shadows against the walls that trembled in the brightness. The figures writhed, losing form, and the voices quieted, fading into terrified whispers. Let us finish this, Emily yelled, a fire igniting in her spirit. Together, they channeled all of their pain, their fears, and their love into a final push. We won't let fear control us any longer, they shouted as one, causing the cavern to rumble with an intensity that shook them to their core as the light blazed fiercely. The shadows shrieked, distorting into howling masses of despair. With a final, anguished cry, the darkness lunged, but their unyielding light pierced through like a beacon. A brilliant flash enveloped them, engulfing the shadows in a wave of pure energy, feelings of forgiveness and understanding cascading over Rebecca and Emily. When the light faded, they found themselves standing on solid ground. The cavern transformed into a serene landscape bathed in golden light. The weight of darkness lifted, replaced by a gentle warmth that enveloped them like a hug. Rebecca and Emily exchanged glances, disbelief entwined with relief flooding through them. Did we do it? Emily asked, wide-eyed with wonder. Rebecca smiled, tears of joy streaming down her face. We did. We faced our fears and emerged together. An overwhelming sense of love and acceptance filled the air. The shadows now transformed into memories that sparkled like stars around them. In that moment, they understood true courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to embrace it and rise above. Maple Creek, once a place of dread, had turned into a testament of their strength. Finally, they could move forward. Hand in hand, they stepped into the warmth of the sunlit future that awaited them, a world full of endless possibilities. As they passed the edge of the landscape, the diary shimmered one last time, a promise of light enduring in their hearts. Together forever, Emily whispered. Always, Rebecca replied, her heart brimming with love as they walked into their new life. The shadows of the past melted away, no longer haunting but lessons learned. They had not just escaped, but transformed. Maple Creek now breathed in their courage, and with that, they could finally begin anew. But wait, before you go, don't let this experience end here. You need to subscribe now to ensure you never miss out on our next thrilling tales. Smash that like button to pump those algorithms into overdrive. And please flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this wild conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with friends who crave gripping stories just like yours. Let us keep our community growing strong.